I got Gabe Ruediger, my brother. We used to train together.
Yeah.
Long history, long time MMA, like really pioneer MMA, like lightweight pioneer, right?
Fought in 02 was my first fight.
02.
Yeah.
Representing, I mean, you were representing jiu-jitsu too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was half Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. That was, I was
The old school, the original school.
The original.
The hardcore.
Yep. Yeah. That's first two fights were with Half. Like, and then I moved from.
What were some of the guys in the gym at that time?
Room? Jeez, BJ Penn, Dave Camarillo, Dan Camarillo, Cameron Earl. Unfortunately.
I know. I remember him.
Yeah. I mean, not to mention,
went to prison for. Yeah, he's still in there, right?
You know what? Cameron and I were friendly. And not friendly because Cameron wasn't really friendly with anyone, but.
I went against him twice.
He was a very intense individual and got in a lot of trouble.
Tapped out Marcelo Garcia.
Yeah, I mean, like
he got me in that same footlock. I didn't tap. He hurt me.
I mean, he was, he actually liked hurting people.
Yeah,
and
he was off. He was off.
There was something definitely off. I didn't think he was off like that.
Right.
I never in a million
ended
years
up being a serial rapist.
Yeah, rapist, and
it is
like,
what it is. Yeah.
I could have seen him being like maybe even a serial killer. Like I like
more than that, right?
Because he was really an intense individual and liked fighting a lot.
Yeah,
I never in a million years thought he would do something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad he's in prison. He deserves to be there. I mean,
yeah, no doubt.
Like really, it's just like you don't hurt innocent people. Like like as a man in particular, you know what I mean. Like if you have a skill set and you want to.
He's a dangerous individual as it is.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And that was like the whole thing when it happened is everyone's like, oh, there's no way that Cameron would have done that. Like he was a badass black belt, you know what I mean? And like, there's no way that, and what initially happened was, a woman had escaped and
escaped when he tried to.
We're like, dude, Cameron, he's a scary individual. He's not, there's no way someone's going to get away.
Yeah.
And then they did a DNA test and found out that a couple other ones he had done, and he deserves to be where he's at. Yeah, absolutely.
And there was like a cop or something, right, from the gym at Half's at that time.
I mean, we had many cops. It was not.
But there was a detective or something that looked into it. What was the story? There was some kind of.
I had been gone at that point.
Okay.
So I don't know too much about what had transpired, but I know that.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
I remember. Because he was a hero to a lot of the guys. Like Gumby and on the mat and all these guys.
Him and Gumby were roommates, and
Scotty. I remember because I went out there to Santa Cruz one of the years to compete, and I went against him as a brown belt. Yeah. And he was pissed that I was staying with Scotty because I knew Scotty from back in the day from Brazil and the histories. And he was just like, he was different.
He was definitely off. He was one of those guys that you wanted to be on his good side because you didn't like his bad side. You know what I mean? Like, and he was one training partner, and I'm tough dude in the room, and it's unfortunate that there's people out there, especially in the jiu-jitsu community. Like you think oh, it happens in karate all the time, happens here. When you have especially a high-level jiu-jitsu player that turns out to be a really horrible person, it puts a little bit of a strain on the community as a whole. And I'm like I said, I'm glad he's in jail or prison. So we need to keep that 100% out of jiu-jitsu as a whole. I appreciated that. I met so many good people. I mean, there's obviously there's bad people in everything. There's not. You can't go anywhere without having some negative. You know what I mean? There's always going to be that negative side of everything. For sure. But I want to keep it as low as possible in the jiu-jitsu community. So it was a black eye.
Yeah. What's your story? What did you started jiu-jitsu in San Francisco?
Yeah, I think 98, 99.
Okay.
I was doing kung fu. And I distinctly watched UFC 4 at my friend's house. Okay. And I went to my kung fu instructor, and this is well before I started. Like this, I wasn't even living in San Francisco at the time. Okay. And I asked him,
where are you from originally?
I was born in LA, and then I moved to a small town called Grass Valley, like in Northern California, up by like Lake Tahoe area.
Okay.
And there was nothing up there. So kung fu, I had a buddy who did kung fu that I worked with, and so I started doing kung fu, and this is. In the early 90s when I first started doing kung fu, and my instructor would tell me, "Oh, kung fu sansu, if you hit someone one time, you'll kill them." And the good part about it though is it made me terrified of fighting. Yeah. Like I was so afraid if I hit someone, I might kill them. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I never wanted. Oh gosh, maybe 14, 15 when I first started. Yeah. And but we watched UFC 4. And then I went and asked my instructor about jiu-jitsu, and he lost his mind. Oh, Sansu has counter grappling. All that stuff is garbage, blah, 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 blah. And I remember he pulled everybody into the room. He's like, okay, guys, we're going to learn some counter grappling. And I was like 15 or 16 going like, I don't believe that's going to work. I don't think that, I mean, I didn't know anything at that point. Right. But what I saw was like, I don't know.
You felt it. You
felt
it.
And then I moved to San Francisco, and I met this tattoo artist named Troy Denning. He's actually relatively known. I mean, he's in New York. He was a Henzo guy for a long time. Okay. I don't know where he's at now, but I mean, he's a legitimate tattoo artist, and he had a torn gi in his studio. And I'm like, oh, because at this point I was enamored, and I was like getting every video I could, which is not very many, but
VHS tapes. At the time.
I mean, like, VHS, which most people don't even understand anymore. But he goes, yeah, I trained with Ralph Gracie, and I had seen the extreme fighting. And I was like, oh my God, I know exactly who that is. And I went to the academy.
Off the Pitbull Gracie.
Dude, seriously, just an intimidating persona. When he walked into the room, you just all, but Kurt Osiander was a brown belt at the time. And he put me on the mats. He gave me a basic 101. Nice. Like, this is how you pass guard. This is mount.
What year was that?
I would say 98.
98.
Probably 98, okay. Yeah.
He was a brown belt already at that time?
Yeah. He was a fresh brown belt, and he opened up the San Francisco Academy. The San Francisco Academy had just opened up.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm going to say it was
maybe 2000, yeah. Maybe 2000.
No, it was not 2000. Because
late 90s? Because
I remember 99 at the very latest. Because in 2000...
Because I met Kurt in Brazil. When he came down to compete at the Worlds,
as a
purple belt, yeah.
Okay.
And it was 98 or 99. It was purple belt at that time.
In 99,
maybe it was later that year.
99 going into 2000, we had a massive fight through the streets of San Francisco. It's like one of those epic, 10 jiu-jitsu guys against 30 guys. Wow. It was, absolute insanity.
You guys had it.
We ended up doing pretty good, and then there was like gunplay, and the cops showed up, and it was just. In the streets of San Francisco on Market Street, the market or the whole street was shut down, and it was just thousands and thousands of people. And we got into a little bit of a scuffle.
How did that happen? What was the story behind that?
So
10 versus 30.
Yeah. I mean, so it started off. It was, I would say, me, Kurt.
Man, if you knew some basic jiu-jitsu back then,
Brett
in those
Berg.
days,
oh, I mean, dude, you were a superstar. I would like if you had
superhero.
You really had powers. You had powers above and beyond anything else. And there was about 8 of us. I can't think of all the guys that were there. Brett Bergmark was there for sure because he got punched in the face. But this guy goes to Kurt's wife, "Hey, what's up, bitch? What's up, bitch?" And, is it okay to curse?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. And Kurt turns around, and before Kurt could do anything, I punched the guy and grabbed him to the ground, and I put him in an arm bar, and I started pulling the arm bar, and then that guy's friends came and started attacking us and like circled us, and then another group that was not with that group, but it was like an ethnic issue because we were a bunch of white and Latins. They came and got involved as well on top of us, and so we all dispersed because this is in the middle of 1999 New Year's. You know what I mean? And the cops are showing up, so we all take off, but 2 guys got circled and beat up. And then, like, Brett was one of those guys that got beat up. Brett, he'd fought in the WC. But so when we finally found the other 2 guys, we're like, what happened? They're like, oh, we just got beat up. They circled us. We got to go find them now. So the only way to, we had to get retribution. And we found each of the people that beat him up. And we got into another massive scuffle. And as a matter of fact, I was mounted on another guy, punching him. And the cop grabbed me and started to arrest me. And Kurt's wife goes, "Oh, that guy attacked my friend." I'm mounted on the guy. Like, it's like, but the cop drops me and grabs him and arrests him. And then we hear gun, gun, gun. And one of the other group had pulled the gun, and that was the end of the night. I mean, this is this is a time frame when no one knew anything. You know what I mean? If you knew, if you knew jiu-jitsu, you had a silver bullet. You know what I mean? And and that time frame, we were all a bunch of insane, crazy, 20 somethings.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's crazy, man. So you San Francisco, you started jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Then you went to then you started fighting. How did that happen?
Yeah. So let's see. I was doing competition jiu-jitsu and I loved it. And it was a lot of fun. And then I just picked up kickboxing and I was doing kickboxing and I had, I think 5 or 6 kickboxing matches. Then I did some Sanshu, the punching with throws.
Like,
and I did
Kung Lee, right?
Yeah, the same thing Kung Lee does. And I won silver at that. And I went to Japan and I was staying in Japan for about a month and a half. And I was training with like all the top guys at the time, like Kikuta, Gono, Sakurai. My very first day
Sakurai,
there
was
with,
cool.
I mean, at the time frame for me, Sakurai was, I mean, he'd beaten Frank Trigg. And again, these are all names that no one's going to know anymore. But he was, for me, he typified everything about fighting. And then Kikuta had, I think, won Abu Dhabi or got second in Abu Dhabi at the time. So he was a really high-ranked grappler. Who else was there? Imanari. Actually, my very first day, when I got in there, I went and trained with Imanari, and he footlocked me, I think, 10 or 15 times. But so I trained with all these guys, and I did okay. Like the grappling and I trained with like some pro judo guys, and I'm like, I want to try this. I wasn't. Again, the time frame, it was illegal in the States.
Right.
There was, I think, it had just gotten sanctioned in Nevada. New Jersey was the first.
King of the cages and WCs, right?
Yeah,
The Indian reservations.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, I mean, that my first fights ever were in Indian reservations, or illegal fights. I fought an illegal fight in Hollywood when I first moved down here, where the promoter was like, "Okay, if we get raided, tell them it's a pro wrestling match." And I was like, "Wait, is it pro wrestling?" And no, but just that they get raided. And I'm like, "Wait,
what was the name of that event?
Huh?
What was the name of that event?
Bobby Gamboa's Pit Fighting Championship.
Bobby Gamboa's Pit Fighting Championship in Hollywood.
It was in a club in Hollywood.
What year was that?
I want to say 04, maybe
04?
03,
03?
Maybe 03. It was ridiculous. It was it was an amazing,
and it didn't get shut down.
No, it didn't get shut down, and it was. But
how big of a venue? Or how
it was a small venue, maybe 500 people.
Okay,
and they tried to make it like
sure.
the fight club, nightclub type thing. You know what I mean? And I think you remember a time frame when you just fought because you could because there was no.
I made a couple $100 if you're lucky, right?
Oh,
how much did he pay for that?
You know what? That
fighting event.
I got a lot of money for that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I made $500.
$500.
And I was like, for me at that time, was
right.
I mean, $500 was huge. I mean, the first fight in the WC, I made $200. I mean, it was. Yeah.
And that was like the precursor, the lightweight, all the top lightweight UFC champs.
Yeah.
At that time, they were WC, and then they merged, right?
This was when I think I fought in WC 4 or 5, which was still a small event, and I mean all weight classes, and it was a time frame when nothing was on TV. The UFC happened once every 3 months, maybe, and this is before the time they cut out the lightweight division. That's when I first started. I mean,
right. I remember because that was the time I stopped fighting.
Yeah,
I did my King of the Cages and all that, and then I got the title, and then I wanted to go to the UFC, and then they cut out the division. Right.
It's funny. Is yesterday? Do you know Keith Mills?
Keith Mills.
He's a photographer.
Yeah,
He's been
of
around
course.
forever.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, he did not hook and shoot, but ADCC, right? ADCombatClub.com or something.
Yeah.
He ran those.
I spat and talked to Keith yesterday.
Oh, no way.
And I mean, he's been one of those guys that's been around since the beginning.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about like that time frame was just, I mean, you fought when you could fight.
Right.
And I remember taking I drove from California to the coast, the Gulf Coast of Texas to fight. I didn't know who I was going to fight. I didn't know anything. I just showed up and
an opportunity to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I had a chance to fight.
Yeah.
Why not want to go there and do it? So
yeah.
different time frame, man.
Yeah.
Different time
it's
frame.
crazy. I know it's so professional. I mean, I guess I thought in a way it could be, but I didn't think it was going to be like this. On ESPN, on the mainstream sport.
Blown away.
Yeah.
Like genuinely to see the transformation.
Trajectory,
and people have no concept of that at all. I mean, and they look at the fighters now, and you have your top tier guys that everyone talks about, like a Conor or whatever. But it's insane to think that the dark ages. I mean, I remember when I was living in San Francisco, and there was a place called Japan Video. And that was where I would get my VHS. I'd get the IVCs. Remember the IVCs?
Right. Yeah.
Like remember when Mark Kerr fought Fabio Gurgel for 30 minutes and held his biceps and headbutted him for 30 minutes? Yeah. Like people don't understand like like how
Vanderlei Silva.
Vanderlei when he was just a monster, bare knuckled, and I mean, or even the first
Valetudo days,
really Valetudo. Like it was like it's intense, man.
Those are like the Valetudo days, but here at least we had gloves, right?
I mean,
the early UFCs it was bare knuckle, but
I would say that from when I started in 02, the rule change has not changed much, except I think like the 10-6 elbow is something that was relatively new, but even at that point when it wasn't sanctioned, we were still fighting under the rules they're in now. You know what I mean? You had the gloves, you had to have the protective gear. You didn't have to go to a doctor. You didn't have to have any medicals done, which is and I'm actually thankful for that now. You know what I mean? Because with any type of bloodborne pathogen or something, I mean, someone could be sick and you get in the ring with them.
So they had blood work done at
no, they at that point there was nothing. I mean, I don't know. Did they have that in King of the Cage?
They did. Actually, New Mexico, no, they didn't.
Okay.
They didn't.
Yeah, I mean, it was just.
I mean, it depends on the state, on the athletic commission, right?
I remember at WEC that they brought. I think it was like WC3. They
didn't check for AIDS or anything. Dude,
they came in and they're like, "Does anyone have gloves?" And no one had gloves. So they brought this box of gloves in. And none of them.
Filthy gloves.
They were all disgusting. But there was one pair of. Do you remember Kickskin? The company Kickskin.
Right.
There was these Kickskin
gloves,
Kickskin gloves in there, but they were like 15 ounces. Like, but like it felt like there was like buckshot in them. They were really, really heavy. And someone's like, "Oh, I'm gonna grab these." And he got a knockout that night. Because, I mean, dude, he had loaded gloves, basically. And it just didn't matter. It was just like, okay, well, we're just going to fight.
No rules,
No rules, man. Like, really.
No, like the cleanliness. I remember, like, I never had got anything all the years of jiu-jitsu, and then I did the King of the Cage, my first fight. Yeah. The fight was only a couple minutes, but I got staph and emphysema. And that the minute and a half or whatever I was in there for.
Yeah, I'm sure. They clean up the blood and let it go. But yeah, so in that respect, I'm thankful that now that you have a commission involved.
For sure.
Everything's followed in that.
For sure. More professional.
I still miss.
We're proud, huh? Being in that era.
It's amazing to see a transformation. Genuinely, to see it from a point where. I remember I told people like, I had a cage fight. They're like, "What do you mean a cage fight? Like a dog? Like a dog fight?" I'm like, "Well, I mean,
kind of. Yeah.
I mean, how do you explain that to someone that has no idea about it?
Human dog fighting.
Yeah, it really was what it was.
Yeah.
And I mean, like $200. You know what I mean? Or a big payday was $500.
Right.
So it was a crazy time.
You started fighting what those years, the early 2000s, right?
Yeah, 02 was my first fight. And I was for 2 years. I was with Half. And then I moved down to Millennia.
Okay.
Yeah, and so
Rancho Cucamonga.
Yeah, with Javier Vasquez, Romeo Ram. At the time, there was a bunch of other guys too, but I think those would be like the names.
Main guys over there.
Jim, John Jensen.
Those are the guys running like winning stuff, right?
Exactly, like
as an MMA camp.
Yeah, and I mean at the time, and this is another thing. Like most people don't know King of the Cage now. At the time, King of the Cage was rivaling UFC.
Yeah.
I mean, when they had the deal with Pride,
right?
Like for me as a fan, I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to be the next big thing. They're going to surpass the UFC.
Like their pay-per-views were like they were good.
Yeah,
they were legit.
And
everything was legit.
I mean, Terry had a great job with production. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think because him and Bud. Bud being a TV guy understands production. So I really thought at that time that that King of the Cage. And so for Javi and Romy in particular being King of the Cage champions, those were legitimate titles that you happen to take from Javi. Actually, I mean,
man, I'm curious. Were you with them when I fought him?
I was. Yeah, I had just gotten there when you'd beat Javi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was very unhappy.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's
part of the game, right?
Who likes to lose? You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean,
I was curious. I was going to since you got there after, I was curious to see how they were preparing, what they were, if they just were taking me lightly or what.
Oh,
because to this day,
I think Javi saw you as another black belt, and you gotta have respect for that. But Actually, he wasn't even a black belt at the time. I think Javi was a brown belt.
Yeah.
But I know he had respect for your ground, but nothing else. And he felt like his wrestling, would supersede that. And I mean, you have to have a certain level of confidence. I think at that point, Javi's was a little bit, and I love Javi. He was my roommate for many years, and I'm not talking poorly about him. I would say this to him too. I mean, I have no, but I mean, it's heated on arrogance.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, he's the man. After I was telling you, sharing with you before, just how he had cancer.
Yeah, dude.
And he beat cancer. He's a warrior. He's a beast. He's a great. I think he's a great guy. Good heart.
Gone through a lot. And I have immense amount of respect for Javi.
Me too.
And I mean, he trained his confidence. He trained with the confidence as well. Some people are just arrogant. They're like, I don't have to train hard because I'm good. Javi trained with the intensity of. To go with his confidence. Right. I know many people that are arrogant about I don't have to train because I'm that good. He was never that guy, and
but he was why I wanted to fight him is he was cocky towards me. He was arrogant towards me. He came out to New Mexico, he was just walking around with his belt, how the guys do, the champions do.
Dude,
and so I was like, hey, how's it going? How you doing? I was gonna do my first fight just to try it out,
Yeah.
And then he acted arrogant with me.
A little arrogance. I mean,
yeah. And then I told the matchmaker that night, I was like, I want to fight that guy. And then, obviously they didn't pay. And actually what I did for my first fight was, a couple $100, right?
Yeah.
But they said, I'll give you commission
for
ticket sales.
Yeah.
So
you were living there. So.
Right. And I had a school in New Mexico, big school for a lot of years,
Right.
And so I went and just bought I think $10,000 worth of tickets.
Okay, so you made a good payday regardless.
Yeah, I made a couple thousand, whatever it was, considering, for sure, it was it was still kind of $100, and then they wanted me to fight again, obviously because of that. Then they realized, what I was bringing, I guess, because all they care about the promoters is, getting paid, putting butts in the seats, right?
Yeah, it's attendance, I mean.
So then they wanted me to fight again, of course, obviously for another fight, and I was like, hey, you guys have to pay me extra $100. I bring more to the table than this.
I want at least $400 or $500.
Yeah. That's how it was, man.
Negotiating back then was ridiculous.
Man. I just had Renato Migliaccio. Do you know who he is?
No.
He's like a Hein Gracie black belt. We were just joking about. We even talked about it on our podcast. But man, he had to lie to Hein Gracie of how much he made. I forgot to bring that up, but he got paid it was like a couple $100 or something. And he told me, they're paying me $2,000 because he was fighting Pride and stuff.
Yeah.
He's a black belt. It's a big deal, right?
Yeah, of course. He wanted to realize, I'm on your level. I'm doing big things.
Something. You're not on the level, but
exactly. I get it.
At least something, but then they wanted me to fight, and then they made it. Then they're like, okay, if you do this next fight, we're not going to increase your pay, but we'll give you the fight with Javi. That's how it happened. And so they canceled that event in October because I fought him in June, I think.
Okay.
Or May or something. And then we want to do an October event. I was like, hey, I need to get paid $400 instead of $200.
Right.
They want a bunch. So they canceled that whole event, and then they ended up doing it in December. And I was like, okay, we're going to pay you the same, but we're going to give you a title fight. I was like, fair enough.
Yeah, I get a belt. Yeah, I mean,
so I get an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
And it was going to be on pay-per-view. Sold out arena, New Mexico.
Yeah. Dude,
I was training with Greg Jackson too. Yeah. Michael Winklejohn, and then I had my gym in Santa Fe.
I mean,
and
it's a
the
good
whole
business
place.
move, anyways.
I mean, I was just, he rubbed me the wrong way.
I get that too. There have been many guys that are like, I want to fight this guy.
Yeah. And it's crazy because like Greg Jackson, those guys, they were good coaches, man.
I'm sure.
And so they would spy at. They went to Arizona. They would film them warming up and doing different things.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
they were like that. Not even him, but some of the guys, like the team members. And they would bring it back and just we really studied the tape. Well, but we were super professionals, They acted like that back in those days.
If you look at boxing and the way the boxing coaches are, they sit there and they analyze everything. Oh, when he throws his jab, he his right hand's dropping. When he throws his cross, his left hand is dropping. They're seeing everything. Oh, look at he switches his feet here. I mean, if you break it down to a science and you're able to analyze it. I mean, and in that time frame, what did you analyze? I don't remember analyze anything.
Yeah, I just knew what he was, and then he was a grappler at the end of the day. He was a wrestler and jiu-jitsu guy, right? Okay, he had some stand-up for sure as well, I bet it was going to be better than mine because I just basically did the worlds the next month. So I was after my first fight, I basically I was doing jiu-jitsu, right?
Right.
And I had this really good martial artist. He was a stick fighter guy, like a dog. You ever see those
The
Dog Brothers?
Yeah.
He's one of the founders of the Dog Brothers, you know.
Okay.
And he's saying like,
Hit him with the stick.
Yeah. I asked him like, what should I do? You know, and when I did my stick thing, you know, a stick fight, I did it one time, one of the events. And he's like, just swing really big and really hard. And I remember that, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's what I did when I fought Javi, because his game plan would have been to avoid me taking him down.
Right.
You know, stick and move, punch me, beat me up, you know?
Yeah.
Make me suffer. And so that's what I did. I just threw big head kicks as hard as I could, trying to knock him out. And guess what he did?
Shot.
He shot in, took me down.
Yep.
You know?
There you go.
Yeah. And that was the fight, right? And then we did jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And I was just a little bit better, right?
Yeah, you gotta be on that day. It's I mean, listen.
And then he hurt his knee, right? Whatever. But you know, it's still, it was techniques that it did that he didn't know.
I mean, without question.
And he has heart. He did, you know, that.
Yeah.
But it was the techniques that it did that allowed me to win the fight.
I mean, listen.
I did like a deep half sweep. I did like crazy omoplata stuff.
Yeah.
I did like all these crazy like technical things, you know,
in
a fight, you know,
in
an MMA fight.
Javi was very, very disappointed and angry, but he also always commended your skill set. That is one thing I'll always say, that like, and look, when you lose, you're always going to be upset. And I will tell you that I have 8 losses on my record.
Yeah.
I'm able to have 2 rematches, so I have 6 more that I still feel I need to get back.
For sure. It never goes away, right? It sucks.
I mean,
it sucks. And more than a jiu-jitsu match, like a MMA fight, it's on your record forever, right?
Yeah. I mean,
so like my kids looked up my record, and like, you have 5 losses.
Yeah.
Dad, Papa, you have 5 losses. Okay, thanks. You know,
appreciate that. Thanks. I didn't. Do I? Oh, is it 5? Thanks. Yeah. No,
thanks for reminding me.
Appreciate that.
Right, but it's there kind of forever, right?
No, without question.
So just, you know.
And then then even like, you got to think of the time frame that we were doing jiu-jitsu. There's probably some VHS stuff of it, but all you have to do is internet Gabe Ruediger, and you're going to find my losses. I mean, they're on there. You know what I mean? And that's like that's forever. I mean,
that's part of, you know, being. It's
okay.
Yeah. It's all good.
Yeah.
We met at Dan Henderson's, right?
Yeah.
So you started fighting. We did, we were in the early days, right, of the MMA kind of movement, you know, before UFC got popular, because 2005-06 is when they had the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah.
And so then you got on the 5th Ultimate Fighter, which was the lightweight.
I fought in the UFC before I got on the Ultimate Fighter.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I fought at the Arrowhead Pond when Matt Hughes and BJ Penn fought the second time. And I fought Melvin Gilliard.
I remember that.
Yeah, that was
the body shot.
Body shot, dude. Oh, the body shot. Yeah. Hey, I mean, you know what? Going back and thinking about it,
I mean, that was hard to do at those times. There weren't that many events. You know, so to actually make it in the UFC was a really, really big deal.
I remember my manager Ed Soares calls me, and we'd been talking.
Oh, he was your manager.
Yeah, we were talking about Pride and all this other stuff, and he's like, "Dude, you're in the UFC. I got you a UFC fight." And I'm like, "Awesome, let's go. Let's go do it." Yeah. You know, I put a training camp together, and I went to Big Bear, but I had I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Man. You're right, like matchups, like styles, right? Maybe it was a different stylistic matchup that you weren't kind of used to, right? You never fought maybe like somebody that explosive.
I wasn't as
like
prepared as I should have been. Okay. I mean, I took him down in the first round, and I took his back. I had his back, and then time run out.
Okay.
And then I was super gassed, and I mean, look, it is what it is. Again, that's a fight I'd love to take again. I've never.
Maybe you guys would do the bare knuckle fighting, right?
Yeah, right. Fuck that, dude. I'm not breaking my hand. They called me for that.
Yeah,
and I'm like, are you gonna pay me $100,000? Like, I'm not gonna.
How much are they paying for those things?
They were like, oh, we pay good. I'm like, okay. I think they were like asking
$10,000, $5,000.
Yeah, 5 and 5, or like maybe 10.
That's crazy, man.
And I go, I'm not doing it for any. You know, if you pay me $100,000, I'll do it, because the potential of break. I think the first one they did, everyone broke their hands.
And you know, and what's crazy too is, like, I mean, just like these guys are like they're kind of, let's say, washed up, you know, but they're older guys. They've been they're around the block, so they have had some traumas, right?
I mean,
and listen, now they're taking blows to the head.
With no gloves.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know.
Well, I'm more concerned about breaking my hand than I mean, the damage that would be done with. I mean, really,
We'll just say it's not probably not the best thing for you.
Either way, it's not a good. I mean,
yeah, I'm good. I'm good. You have your school in Tarzana, California these days.
I'm perfectly
you're
okay.
Good,
yeah. I don't need the money that bad. That's the worst part about it is a lot of guys when they transition, they don't have another skill set. Like, I've been a fighter my whole life. What do I do? I'm very, very fortunate that I'm able to teach and that I have that.
And you did jiu-jitsu, man. I feel like that's such a amazing thing to have in your arsenal. As an MMA fighter, right?
Oh, that's the right. Like, I was actually talking about this with a friend. That jiu-jitsu is kind of been put in. We still have like our Damian Mai and a couple other guys that are like a Ryan Hall, but you don't have a lot of ground specialists anymore. You have guys that are like, I'm going to keep it on the feet because that's exciting. That's what's going to get me paid, and I'm going to be able to defend on the ground. I'm not going to be able. I mean, did you see this last UFC?
I did.
Did you watch the heavyweight bout with the Russian and the? Yeah. Atrocious. Atrocious. Yeah. I was watching, and this guy has got almost 60 bouts, and he's high level, supposed to be a high level grappler. I'm watching it going. I probably for you too, and no disrespect to him. Yeah. Well, maybe a little bit because.
It's the truth. It's the truth. I get it.
If one of my blue belts had mount and tried to do a belly down armbar, when he got off the mat, he would get such an earful. Like it would just be like, what the heck are you doing? You could have sat back and finished it right there. But, so even the ground specialists aren't the specialists that and
there's different levels, huh? There's different levels. Like a Damian Mai, Ryan Hall, like,
or Jacare.
Even us in doing jiu-jitsu stuff and the fights, there's different levels, right? Jacare.
Without question. But I as a purist, I kind of liked when you had your specialist, and I really wish
it was a special time. For sure.
I wish there was.
We both represented jiu-jitsu.
Oh, it was always jiu-jitsu. I never once, look, I learned how to strike. I learned how to wrestle because you have to. Right. But I was a jiu-jitsu. I mean, I think of my 18 wins. I think over, I almost all of them are submission. I'm not all of them. I think that, or TKOs from jiu-jitsu positions, mounted TKOs. But it was expressly utilizing jiu-jitsu.
Man, it's crazy. I was just thinking, like, I have 15 wins, right? Yeah. My only decision win was Javi.
Yeah.
But the rest, 14 submissions. And all different submissions.
Well, and then
like I was totally like
I have one decision win and one decision loss, and you can't watch either one of those matches and tell me I wasn't trying to finish.
Right.
Especially the win. I was trying for arm bars. I was trying for this. I was trying for that. But I kind of appreciated that. Then coming from Half, like initially from Half, like it was like you finish. That's the idea.
Right.
Jiu-jitsu is about finishing.
Right.
Jiu-jitsu is about ensuring that it's over.
It was a martial art. It was fighting.
Exactly. It was expressly for fighting. Yeah. And I even like a tournament. I remember if we had a high point and we didn't. I remember
Smith. Yeah.
I remember I was up 22-0, maybe at white belt, and Half was there, and I jumped off the mat. I won the match, and I came over to give him a hug.
He got pissed.
And he's mad at me.
Yeah.
What? How do you have 22 points and not finish? Yeah. How do you get that high and not finish? And I was just like, oh my gosh. And but I won. I just won. 22 points is a massive margin.
Yeah.
But no, it didn't matter because he wanted to finish. And I mean, I appreciate that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. He brought out the real stuff out of you.
I will tell that I'm very fortunate that my beginnings with Half and Kurt in that group.
Yeah.
I mean, because it was, jiu-jitsu was for the finish.
Yeah,
jiu-jitsu was for making sure it was over.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So going forward to the Ultimate Fighter, right? Go back to the Ultimate Fighter.
Okay,
so you fought in the UFC before the Ultimate Fighter, and then how did that happen? The whole tough. Because I remember I applied to, and I even did an interview, but my son was going to be born around that time, so I wasn't sure.
Smart. I was probably. I mean, listen, the show is its own different animal. I got a call from a producer, and my manager goes, "Hey, go talk with her." I sat and had coffee with her. And she goes, "Yeah, you're definitely going to Vegas for the tryout." And I did the tryout, and they put us all in buses, and they bussed us around. And I didn't realize this at the time, but the bus driver, you think he's just a bus driver, he's a production guy. And he's trying to see how you interact and seeing how he's watching like, okay, these guys hate each other. They'd be great for the show. And so he's picking personalities. Didn't think about that at the time at all. And then I went to Thailand. I trained in Thailand at the Fairtex Academy.
Nice.
Came back and went on the show. And I mean,
they called you. What was how much time did you have to know that you're on it?
So I called them before listen, I'm leaving for Thailand. I need to know if I'm on the show or not because I'm going to stay longer if not. And they're like, well, we haven't told anybody yet, but yes, you're absolutely on the show.
Oh, okay, cool.
So they told me, I think a couple weeks before they told anybody else. And so I went to Thailand. I trained at Fairtex, came back, trained at Team Quest for a couple weeks, I think a week or two.
So you switched camps?
No, I left Millennia and I came to Team Quest because Heath Sims had helped me with my wrestling for the UFC fight. And so
for Melvin.
So it made sense to transfer over. Because at the time, I mean, now Millennia has done a complete 180 and is a massive gym. At the time, it was in a garage and nobody was teaching. I would come in and they would, I'd be like, okay, who's teaching today? They're like, no one's here. And I'm like, well, I've got to fight. So we're doing fight practice. And that's how, so.
You needed like a professional.
We didn't. There was nothing. It was just disorganized, and I mean, and I think Javi had already left. Him and John Jensen had moved to Australia. Okay. The only one that was kind of there was Romy, but he was working full time as a bar manager. Okay. So like it was, the fighters would get together and train, but there was nothing cohesive. There was no, coaching. So I was like, I need coaching. I need something to bring myself up. So I went to Team Quest with Dan in that group. Went to Thailand for a couple weeks, came back, did a week, maybe two, and then went to the show. And
Nate Diaz, Gamborian,
Gray Maynard, Joe Lazon.
Man, that was probably the most guys talent pool.
Yeah, and I as far as insanity that had happened, I think season 5 had the most insanity. I mean, we had probably the most technical street fight between two cast members that got kicked off the show. We had a horse fall down in the driveway, constant bickering and issues. And then there was, me passing out and not making weight, which is the part that I dislike the most, but it just kind of is. So
how many years ago was that?
12, 13
years ago. It's 2005, right? Or 2007?
No. It had to have been 7 or 8.
7 or 8. 7. It was 2007.
Okay, yeah.
Because my son was born that year.
Okay, yeah.
So that was 13 years ago. So what's your feeling about it when you think back about it now? Because the debacle of you not making weight and you got a lot of hate, right?
You know what? That's just. People watch stuff on television.
Got your colon cleanse and everything. Yeah. And you still didn't make weight.
You know what? The funny part about that is I talked to BJ about it, and BJ's like, I've done it, and it helps. And it did nothing, and I'd never done it before, and I was just like, I mean.
I think about that, and anybody that's ever fought, anybody that's ever fought that has actually walked the walk, and done it, you cannot criticize anybody ever for not making weight. Unless you've done that, because you don't know. You don't know how it is. Yeah. Well, you feel like you're going to die, and it's but
what they did not show, what they did not show on the TV, or what they didn't show, what they showed me is eating and doing that had happened 2 weeks prior. The week of the fight, I got strep throat and I was on antibiotics. And so my body just shut down. I'd cut that much weight, I think, for my 3 previous bouts. So for me, I was like, that adds another piece to it. Because I saw
you don't know all the things that's going to play. Some people have, sometimes if you've been doing it long enough, you're going to have a bad day. You're going to have a bad weight cut, Well, that's just part of the game.
I was 58 when my body shut down.
And the fact that, all the cameras on you and stuff doesn't, and then they made it like that. Huh?
Well, I mean, listen, like you sign a contract to allow them to do whatever they want with it, and I mean, you can even see there's they do an interview with Robert Emerson, and he has a black eye in one, and then the next frame he doesn't have the black eye because they're cutting it and they're making the story they want. And I mean, what's just
to make it more like a more watchable or more entertaining, I guess, right?
This is what I would say though.
So you're eating, like they make it look like you're eating when you're,
when in reality I was sick. I had strep. I mean, my roommate Noah Thomas, we've talked about it many times, and look, it just is. I think the worst part about it is it made my career much harder. And if I would have could go back, I would have I still had a UFC contract. I should have just fought my UFC contract. You know what I mean? But, You know, you're thinking, oh, I'm going to be on a TV show. I'm going to be a recognized name. And at the time, again, coming from the dark ages where no one knew anything to now I can actually make money being a full-time fighter. And, you know, people were going to pay me. And at the time, this is when...
And you got on the Ultimate Fighter, like you got paid more when you came off the show.
Even if you didn't win the season, you were going to be set to a higher contract. And, you know, and the more TV time you had, now you were able to get more sponsors, and sponsors were looking at you.
For sure.
So, you know, I could I have played it differently? Absolutely. I will say that I should have come in.
What was your favorite part about the show?
None of it. There was nothing good about it. Like every.
There's nothing good that you got out of it.
No. I mean, I
just the way they set you up with the cameras and the eating thing, because that's what really got you, right? Was them showing you eating, and then you crying like, oh, like it made you look so bad.
I definitely gave them the footage, and they did what they wanted with it. And it was weird. I have no problem talking about this now, but I was on antidepressants at the time, and my moods were going all over the place. And I remember consistently asking the staff, like, "Oh, can you go look this up, because we don't have access to anything, because I don't know what this medication is doing, but I'm feeling like I'm having my ups and my downs, and I'm feeling weird about stuff." And I mean, also being in TV, you know, like a house with 16 other people, and they're all personalities that are meant to clash. Right. And you're also being filmed the whole time, so that probably had a part of it that accounted to a lot of it. But there was nothing good that came from it, and in a lot of ways I feel it
hurt you.
It hurt it destroyed my career.
Yeah. What's the worst part?
The public perception, and also looking at myself like that is. Like we were talking about having confidence. I absolutely believe that everybody in that house I could have beaten. And I trained with a lot of guys, even Joe Lazon that beat me when we fought later on. In the house, I had no problem with Joe at all. And I mean, he can say what he wants, but like that's the truth. And I'm not, Joe's a great fighter, and I respect him for his skill set. And that's not me with bravado, but I mean, you know, like if you train with people, you know, in the room, you know, you're going to have an idea of, if I were to fight this guy, I know I would win. I feel like I did myself a disservice for not coming in the best shape possible. And I take responsibility for that. But I was also like, oh, I'm going to be in a TV show. When I make the weight, because I've always cut 20 plus pounds, it's going to be easy for me. And that's a big part of it. And I mean, watching season 1 when they locked Bobby Southworth in and being like, that was, you know, a dramatic moment.
So you can't go back in time. So what can you, I guess, how do you make up how do you use that to be better?
Well, I mean, so
how have you used that to be better?
So directly off the show, I fought twice, and then I was getting my left shoulder, my hands were going numb, and things were getting worse and worse, and so I went and I had to get a neck fusion.
That's when I met you around that time. It was after the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah.
You know, a bunch of the guys are making fun of that because of the show, right?
Well, they should. I mean,
and then you had the neck surgery on top of that.
Yeah,
right?
And then so I spent a year recovering from that, and then that's when we met. But the good thing about that year is it made me look at myself and, why were you doing this in the first place?
Why are you fighting?
Why, like, were you fighting to make money? Were you fighting because you wanted to be famous? What were you fighting for? And then you realize, wait a minute, I fought in a parking lot, you know what I mean, for $200. That's not what I was here for. This is more of my own personal journey, and this is more about finding myself. And then I went on a 6-fight win streak, you know, and I beat 2 undefeated guys. Von Braga at the time was 15-0, and
that guillotine, you're a guillotine.
Yeah, I have a decent guillotine.
Yeah.
You know, I bought this. I fought this other guy that the UFC was looking at. He was 10-0, a Greg Jackson guy, that New Mexico state champion wrestler, and
who'd you go against?
Lenny Lovato.
Oh yeah.
And at the time he was 10-0, and his dad is the head is the wrestling coach over there. Very nice guy, and I respect him, you know, immensely. But I just went on,
and you made it back to the UFC, right?
Yeah, but after I fought Lenny Lovato, I won the PFC belt, and I was having massive back problems, leading up to the fight, and I went in. I had a 8mm herniation in my back, and so I just spent a month rehabbing, not training at all, just going. And I was doing spinal decompression, where they grab you and they pull your head away, and it was actually feeling a little bit better. And I was working with a buddy of mine, and I got a phone call from my manager. Hey, do you want to fight Joe Lazon on 2 weeks' notice? And I was like, well, let me go check my weight. You know what I mean? Because like I'm not gonna have another debacle if I'm too heavy. Yeah. And I was maybe 170. I'm like, I'm 15 pounds off. I can make the weight. Yeah. And so I spent 2 weeks cutting weight, and that the fight was what it was. And if anything, I probably did myself another disservice. But like being a fighter,
one thing from my perspective is the fact that you made it to the UFC, won, and then you made it back to the UFC.
Well,
so that shows like your character.
And Dana said that I would never fight in the UFC again, and I got back to the UFC by fighting my ass off.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and going back to the roots of why I did this in the first place. It was not about TV. It wasn't about. I don't care about. And you can. Obviously it sucks when people say bad things about you, especially things that aren't true. But when you put that aside and you just focus on what the reasons why you do things, right? What is the reason why we get involved in fighting?
Your why.
Yeah, and going back to, this was my way of battling my demons when I was younger, and now I'm still battling demons. I'm still battling, and now there's a whole different set of demons, and there's gonna be naysayers. There's gonna be people that are saying negative things about you, and people that don't believe in you.
Public persona.
Yeah, but so I found the drive in that. And the motivation in that, when people told me, oh, you'll never do this. Oh, you suck this. I'm okay, good. Keep saying that. Oh, this guy's going to beat you. Good. Say that. Yeah. I'm going to keep coming. And listen, I might fall, and I'm going to fall. And that's inevitable. And like, again, that's what I say with my jiu-jitsu as well. It's like life, right? You can fall down, you can get tapped and you can be upset about it. You can walk out of the room and never come back. Or you can be like, you know what? Let's do it again. Okay, and I might lose again, but I'm going to get back up. I'm going to keep going. Trying, yeah. And as long as I'm moving forward, as long as I'm progressing, and I'm doing my path, and it's not going to be the easiest path, and I'm going to fall down, as long as I'm getting up and I'm moving forward, I'm doing the right thing. And fighting in a lot of ways is an analogy for life, right?
For sure.
We can sit down and we can be upset about it, or we can be like, you know what? I need to get better. That's with business, with relationships. Like we have a failed relationship. All women suck or all men suck or whatever. Or you'd be like, you know what? I need to change things. I need to get better, and I can move forward. And I need to analyze myself and become a better person. You know what I mean? So
it's the act of trying. The act of trying and never giving up.
Well, and that
the process, right? Knowing what's important, your why,
without question. Yeah, I mean, look at I still am very passionate about fighting, and I love it very much because of what it gave me.
Yeah.
But what it's done for my life, and like I said, it is that an analogy for life. You know what I mean? Like the fight and that struggle is very real with everything we do, whether it's business, schooling, all the different things that we have to deal with. It's that's the fight. That's the real. Right. And you can sit and allow people to say negative things about you, and if you believe that, and you sit down, then
it's true, or whatever. Yeah,
I say multiple times that the only loser there is the person that quits. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
You can lose a jiu-jitsu match. Okay, big deal. Okay, on that day he was better than you. Or you can lose at a lot of things. The only person that's a genuine loser is the person who just backs away and quits. Like, keep going. It's not going to be easy. Nothing in life is easy. And that's the one thing about fighting and about my career as a whole. And there's still gonna be naysayers. There's still people that I know, there are plenty of people that don't like me or have a negative opinion of my fighting, or that I suck, this, that. You know what? That's fine. I always say is
most of the guys are on the couch.
If you've trained with me, you know who I am.
Yeah.
If you've been in one of my students, you understand the person that I am. And am I faulted? Absolutely. We all make mistakes and errors, right? But I try to do the best, and I try to do the best for my family. I try to do the best for my students. I try to do the best for my community. You know,
you have a little daughter, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I have two. I've got
two daughters.
I have an 8-year-old, Jasmine, gorgeous and becoming a little lady. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then little Valkyrie, who's 4 months.
Oh, amazing, man.
Yeah, it's. I mean, that's like.
I didn't know you about the second one.
Yeah, yeah. My wife and I.
Huh?
We.
Congrats, man.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I'm head over heels. Like I work all day at the gym, and then I come home, and she gives me like the biggest smile, and I'm like, okay, everything's okay. There's nothing that can go wrong at this point. Nice. And I mean, you know, you find substance in that too. You know,
for sure. You're wise. Well, so what happened after that your second UFC stint?
Yeah, so I lost to Joe Lazon, and then you know what, I'm going to be 100% honest with you right now. Yeah. I had my second fight planned, and at the time,
in the UFC after the second stint,
and I knew that if I lost this fight, I'd be cut.
Right.
And I had gotten my girlfriend pregnant with my daughter Jasmine, and I cheated. I did EPO, but I cycled it wrong. And the problem with EPO is if you don't stay on it,
thickens your blood.
It makes it. So if I would have fought 2 weeks prior to my fight with Paul Taylor, I was doing 5.5s. I was running sprints I felt like a superhuman, and I get why people do it, absolutely. And then I had this massive crush where I would go into, you remember SK Golden Boys? I would go to the wrestling club, and I couldn't do 5 minutes of wrestling. And I was panicking, but you know what? I still got to go in there. I still have to fight. And I gassed, and I fought Paul Taylor in the second round. I'm like, you know what? He doesn't punch very hard. I think I can knock him out if I get him into a punching exchange, but I forgot he kicks hard. And he put one upside my head, and that was the end of my UFC career. So... And then I went back in for another surgery, got my back done, and then fought 6 months later after that, completely unprepared and lost to a guy that I should never have lost to. But you know what? It was a good learning experience for myself. And I don't have a lot of fighters that I deal with, but I tell them all the time.
When did you call it?
So I had to fight that guy again because there was no way that guy could have a win over me. I beat him, and that was it. I mean, I had my daughter was born, and I had to transition. And it's great to chase a dream when you're a young man and you don't have children, but my feeling is my dream is over because now I have this little person that her dream is more important than mine. Right. And I have to make sure that everything I have is a commitment to ensure that my child, her father is there, he's healthy, that he's able to provide for her, all the different things. And so when I had my daughter, that was really the transformation. It was just like, and the reality is like, am I going to keep chasing this? You know what I mean? I'd had, almost 30 bouts. I had 12 years in, and I had the ability to teach, and I find gratification in that. I'd be lying if I said I'm still not a competitor at heart, that I still don't want to, I can get another one in there. I could do this. And especially when I'm seeing guys, I'm like, that guy's horrible. I know I'd beat that guy. Excuse me. But at 42, I find satisfaction in my family and my students.
Where's your school?
In Tarzana, California, KAIJU MMA. I'm very, very thankful. I've taught at a lot of different schools and worked for other people, and it just made sense to do my own thing because that's kind of the person that I am, and I have a great group, and I'm very, very thankful.
Were you with Systems?
I was over
with
there.
Marcus,
Yeah. I was there for a bit.
Okay.
For 3 years. I have nothing but respect for Marcus and his family. He's a good guy, but our ideas of things went different routes, and I just needed to break away.
So you've had the school for how many years? The KAIJU?
Been 2 years.
2 years, okay.
Growing, yeah. Okay. We're actually looking to expand. We're looking to go. We're 2,000 square feet. Looks like we're going up to 6.
Cool.
And I'm very, very thankful.
It's mainly jiu-jitsu, right?
Jiu-jitsu, kickboxing.
Kickboxing, okay.
We do a little bit of fitness, and some MMA as well. But jiu-jitsu and kickboxing. But it's I'm fortunate. I've got 2 other black belts, and they have very drastically different styles than myself. Because me, I'm like that grinding, like, okay, let's finish this guy and call it a day. Whereas they like the tricky, like, back takes and berimbolo and all this stuff that I personally, it's not part of my game. You know what I mean? And I have no problem with that sport jiu-jitsu style. And I'm glad that I have guys that can teach that, but that's not me. You know what I mean? I'm the guy, like, let's go in there and let's take this guy down and let's pass his guard and punch him in the face. That's you know, I mean, that's what I did. So that's my specialty, but I'm very fortunate to have to other black belts that they're very sport oriented.
What would you tell, what advice would you give to a white belt? quick answers.
Well, yeah, but the biggest thing is drill. But you know what? When you're talking to a white belt, you can say that 1,000 times and they're still not going to listen. I know you want to roll. I get it. I still love rolling over training. But if you want to get good as fast as possible, drill. And also have your fundamentals. I think if you don't have fundamentals, it's the same thing as like building a house. If you don't have a good structure foundation, it doesn't matter how beautiful the house is. It's going to fall if it doesn't have a good foundation.
What about showing up?
Well, I mean, there you go. Show up. I mean, yeah. You can, if you want to break it down to number one, is showing up is number one. I mean, all the drilling and all that doesn't happen if you're not there, without question. Yeah, that would be the first one. You need to get to show up, but after you show up, then I would say drill and just work on your fundamentals. But nice. Showing up. I mean, come on, that's with everything. You know what I mean? Like you can't get a degree if you never go to college. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can't expect to get a raise at your job if you're doing half-ass work. And again, I go back to the analogy of fighting is the same thing for life, right? If you half-ass anything, you're going to get half-ass results, right? If you put everything you have into it, you may not get the results you want, but at least with yourself, you know you've done the best you could. You know what I mean? Yeah. And in that, I find that's where the satisfaction really lies. And yeah, showing up, right? Show up. It's the same like, I want to get in shape. You know what you need to do? You need to work out. You need to work on your diet. Oh, that's too hard. Well, then you're fucked. You know what I mean? If you're not willing to commit and you're not willing to put the time and effort in, then you're fucked. Like that's really like I can't do anything else for you. Yeah, showing up. And that's with everything. You know, oh, my relationship's failing. Well, how much time do you spend with your significant other? Well, you know, I see her every 3 weeks. Show up. You know, get there. Like and again, it's commitment. Yeah.
What advice would you give to a 20-year-old Gabe Ruediger?
Wow, that's a tough one.
You're 42
42 now. Yeah.
Dad.
Yeah.
Two daughters.
I mean, I'm thankful for the life that I've had. I don't want to go back. I mean,
what advice would you give him?
Just the problem that would be is
mindset.
It put me on a different course, you know. And but I feel like gosh, I don't have a.
What's in your heart? What do you feel?
Well, I just feel that like there are many, many things that I regret, but I'm very, very fortunate for where I've come. And if I wouldn't have gone the path that I wouldn't be where I'm at now. Now, obviously, I could have done things very, very different. I could have changed things up in it. Like, for instance, I wish I would have gone off my own and done my own school beforehand. You know, I feel like that because the business side of it now, as a 42-year-old man, I'm like, oh wow, okay, I need
You waited a while.
I waited. I mean,
you were training at Team Quest.
Yeah,
you were teaching at these other gyms.
I was
around that time too when I was there,
and I was building other people's dreams instead of building my own dreams. So I guess if I could have told 20-year-old Gabe like, hey. But 20-year-old Gabe had no concept about fighting and didn't want to do this as a living, you know. 20-year-old Gabe was like, okay, I'm gonna go to school, I'm gonna get my degree, and then I found jiu-jitsu and it changed the whole dynamic of my life, you know. I don't think I started training jiu-jitsu until I was 22, 21. I mean, so if I were to tell 22-year-old Gabe,
okay.
But if I were to tell 22-year-old Gabe, if I would have told him, hey, focus on that stuff, I wouldn't have had the experience that I had. You know what I mean? So if there's one takeaway, I would have said I'd start your business earlier and focus not so much on, you know, yourself. Because again, like one thing that I'm very thankful for, I was a single man. I didn't have family. You know, I had girlfriends, but I mean, even with that was not really girlfriends, you know what I mean? So I was 100% self-focused. So if I could have pulled myself out and been like, listen, at some point you're going to have these people and we need to make sure that those people are taken care of, allocate for that. Allocate for your future. That would have been something that I would have said. Is like, make sure that you have, because when you're fighting, when I was fighting, I wasn't thinking about anything but the next day. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have a long-term plan. It was never like, oh yeah, I'm gonna
Planning ahead, maybe, huh? Planning ahead better.
Yeah, absolutely. That would
thinking of your future better.
Thinking of the future, but how do you do that in your 20s? You know, and I also say I wouldn't have had the experience that I had. I wouldn't have traveled all over the world like I did if I was focused too much on that. But so you know, but yeah, if there's one takeaway, I would have said I would have liked to have allocated more time to building my future.
Thinking about your future and planning your future.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I mean, now that we have kids, you know, it changes the dynamic of your life. And you're like, as self-serving as I was as a fighter, I'm like, oh, they're way more important than me. Like, you know, your kids, I would hope, like, I would die for them. You know, my girls, like, I would stand in the way of 1,000 rhinos, like, without even question, because they're far more important than me.
Hopefully they don't get in front of 1,000 rhinos.
Yeah, I got to question why we got involved in this in the first place. Yeah, but if we get in a scenario like that, I'm gonna be the one. Like, okay, but so you understand that your children are far more important. But how do I have that as a you know, a 20-something-year-old man where I'm like, I'm just fighting and, you know, I'm enjoying my life. And I mean, I've traveled all over the world. I've trained with the best fighters in the world, the best grapplers in the world. And I have so much experience.
Who at the time, huh?
Yeah.
Like Olympians, like world champion, wrestlers, judokas. MMA,
I mean, I had an opportunity. Like, I've trained with you many times. I mean, like grapplers.
I mean,
and
it was like crazy at that time. It was like the who's who.
Yeah,
in MMA,
even at Team Team Quest alone.
That was the best time. Like Sokoju had just knocked out Minotauro, and I don't know. It was everybody. We had
Tarek.
Dan Henderson
was in there.
Right, Dan Henderson was.
Dan was getting ready to fight Anderson.
He had just won the Pride Grand Prix.
Dude, I mean,
that was like the time, right?
Yeah, I mean, like everyone, a who's who came through that gym, and I got an opportunity to train with a lot of people, and maybe if I was focusing on the future, I wouldn't have been in that moment. And I you know, when Marcelo Garcia came in, and
Marcelo Garcia.
I mean, were you there when Marcelo was there?
Yeah, I was around that time. I was like a week. I wasn't there when he was there, but I went like the week after, and then Dan was doing some of his X-Guard stuff. I was like, oh,
wait a minute, I recognize that.
But you know, one of the Dan was always open to learning, right?
Dude,
he's always changing, and you think like he's just stuck in his ways, but nah, he's not. He's got his H-bomb in his back pocket anytime,
without question. Yeah, well,
but he's always learning.
As Dan, his wrestling, because he physically couldn't do it. I mean, that's when he became more of a heavy puncher. But Dan was Dan would train with black belts all the time. I mean, we had Vinny Magalish, and that was, you know,
they brought them in just to have
expressly to make Dan better. And as much as like you say, everyone knows about the H-bomb, but Dan, very, very good grappler on the ground. Yeah. I mean, two-time Olympian for wrestling. I mean, Dan. But that time frame, man, like the guys that I got the opportunity to train with, unbelievable. And I'm thankful for that. Yeah.
Why should somebody train martial arts? Obviously, we're big proponents of martial arts. Why should somebody train martial arts? What can it do for their lives?
Why should you not train martial arts is a better question. It changes your life in every possible way. It gives you better drive, it gives you more commitment, it gives you confidence. It does all the things that benefits you. And that's why I like to look at life like the analogy of fighting. And everything that I've learned from fighting absolutely goes to life. And it doesn't matter what it is. Like I said, school, business, relationships, all these different things benefit from the martial arts. And I'm very, very thankful for that. And if you would have told 20-year-old Gabe this is what I was doing, he would have been like, no way, but that's the coolest thing ever. And I'm very, very grateful that I get an opportunity to do that. And changing lives is that's where that, like, now
you get to give back. When
I get a 50-year-old man that has never done anything and he comes in and he's like, I want to do a tournament. You're like, fuck yeah, we're going to go do a tournament. Yeah. Let's go. Like, that's amazing. They're like, you're finding these, like, again, that's where I find my substance now. And my daughter, you know, she's eight, and she does jujitsu. And, you know, the funniest part of my daughter goes, oh, you want me to be like you? And I go, no, I don't want you to be anything like me. I want you to be like you, but I want you to be the best you that's possible. I want you to be able to protect yourself. I want you to be able to be confident. I want you to be able to be strong. All these different qualities that you're going to get from this. I don't want you to be me. I don't want you to be a fighter at all. That's the very last thing I want you to be. I don't want you to, if you don't want to compete, then don't compete. That's not what I want at all. I'm giving you this because it will give you substance to make you a better person. And if I'm going to do that to my own child, why wouldn't I want that for everybody?
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
Man, so your school's in Tarzana, California.
Yep.
How can people find you?
Well, there's KAIJU-MMA.com, our own website. We're also on all the social media.
KAIJU,
KAIJU.
Dash MMA.
Yeah, Dash MMA. We have got the YouTube. We've got the Facebook. We've got the Instagram.
What's your Instagram?
Instagram is KAIJU MMA. Yep.
KAIJU MMA.
Yeah. And so all the different available social medias, we're on all the platforms. And I'm just thankful that I get to now pass on. And in the mistakes that I've made, the best lesson I think we all have is the errors we made. So when someone comes in and they ask something, I'm like, look, I messed this up, so you cannot, right? This is my job for you is to give you the best.
Right?
Yeah.
Pass
so the experience, right? Yeah.
Man, thank you, man. Thanks for sharing
my pleasure,
your story.
man. It's always fun to talk to you.
It's great to hang out with you and
kind
of catch up. And I didn't even know you had a second daughter. You know?
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it's been great, man. You've been just your fortitude, to get through all the stuff you've gone through. Okay, getting to the UFC is one thing, right?
Yeah.
But then
especially
fighting
the time frame.
Yeah,
like
and then fighting back again after neck surgery. It was after you got neck surgery.
Yeah.
And then you fought back and got into the UFC. Just your fortitude and
well, I mean, I obviously I would like to have had a better career overall, and I feel that those we were talking about the losses, they still bother me to this day, but I mean, I've had an amazing run. I've done so much. I'm very, very thankful and finding substance.
And if you look at your why, you've done all right.
Exactly.
Huh?
Well, then
why you started fighting in the first place.
I've met so many amazing people. Like think of the massive group of people that you've met. And I mean, I've trained with you. I've done so much mat time with you, and I've seen you. I've seen your family grow. I've seen your schools grow. I've seen your transformations as well. And it's amazing to see that all these people in the community, whether they're superstars like Anderson Silva and I are friends, and all these different guys and Dan, all these guys but like it's amazing that we've had this journey together. You know what I mean?
Sure. And we're all interconnected.
Yeah, absolutely, no question.
Thank you, brother.
My pleasure,
Thank
brother.
You.
Always, yeah. All right, cool.